Hey YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be me building an understairs storage. So the last video I done on understairs storage done really well, but it was filmed in portrait, not landscape. So this video is going to be in landscape. So this is the job that I'm going to be doing. So it's 3 drawers, so like for shoes and smaller stuff, and then it's going to be one big door then for coats and stuff. So I'm going to just go through the process of how I build this. I'm really lucky that my wife Kelly does these detailed drawings for me, so all the measurements are on here. So I literally just got to follow this cutting list basically, and everything should go together. Fingers crossed. But I've done enough of them now that, you know, I got a method of how I'm going to do them, so I'm just going to show you my method and how I do my understairs storage. So let's go over to the sheet racking and pick what materials I'm going to be using. So the materials I'm going to be using is 18mm standard MDF, 12mm standard MDF for the drawer boxes. Then I've got 18mm moisture, which I'm going to use for the fronts because it just takes paint a lot better. And I've also got some 6mm as well for the bottoms of the drawers. So the standard 18mm MDF is to make a framework of the understairs, and then the 12 is for the drawer boxes, and the 18 moisture is for the front because that's the only part that gets painted. And then the 6mm again is just bare MDF for the bottoms of the drawers. So first off, now you just can get some 18mm out and start making the framework. So first thing I need to do now is I need to make a frame. So I make my frames 600mm in depth, just so they're easy to get through the doorways of a customer's home and to get them easy in place. Sometimes you make them too big, they're really difficult, and sometimes I've had to take them apart just to get them into the house. So I make the frames 600mm deep, and then I make a drawer 700mm deep, so they're a little bit deeper. The drawer runners I use are 700mm as well, and I can show you them later. So first off, just kind of cut everything now down to 600mm in depth. I like to take off 10mm off the edge, off the factory edge, just because it's not a good edge basically. I use a track saw for this, and I use a 2.7 meter track to just rip them down. It's just so much easier than rather than joining the tracks together. So just do a massive cutting this now, cutting all the parts, and then I can start assembling. So now all the frame is ripped up to 600mm. I'm just going to start cutting the length of everything, and because I got the cutting list on the drawings, I can literally just cut all the parts ready. I got a few angle cuts to make as well, and then I can start rounding off all the edges and assembling the framework. Now all the main pieces are cut, it's time to just take off the edging. So what I mean by that is on all my pieces that are shown, I just round over all the edging. It just takes paint better, and even the unpainted parts, it just leaves a bit of a nicer finish, it just looks better. So to do that, I use a router with a 3.2mm round over bit. This is a trend router bit, it's a Craft Pro range. I know a lot of guys use a smaller bit, so like a 1.6mm round over bit, but I prefer the bigger round over. And like I said, with a double round over on the pieces, it looks really smart. And like I said, once I do it now on all these pieces, I can show you a close-up, and you know, I hope you agree with me that it does look a lot better. Apologies for the voice, I have got a bit of a cold. It's it's not ideal when making a video, but I hope you guys can appreciate that. When you're ill, you just got to carry on, especially being self-employed. Yeah, so I'm just going to do a little round over now on all the pieces, and then I can start cutting the final dimensions on the chop saw, and then start putting it together. To put it together, I'm just going to be using Conformat screws, the biscuit cutter. I use a biscuit jointer quite a lot with number 20 biscuit, and I also am very lucky that I have got a pocket Foran, so I'm going to be using that as well on some parts. So there's a few different ways of fixing stuff, and I will explain as the video goes on why I use them, fixing methods. That's all the parts cut. So all the edges rounded over, and it's now time to put the framework together. So to put it together, you could just use glue and screws, but I like to do a little bit different. I like to use the biscuit jointer with number 20 biscuits, and also then I use these screws. They're called Conformat screws. I buy these from Screwfix. It comes in packs of 100. They're not too bad. I think they're like £7 for a pack of 100, but they are so strong. Like I said, it acts as like a kind of a metal dowel as well, so it don't only pull in the material, but it makes it super strong as well. And I'm not really worried about the framework once it's in position, but when I'm moving around in my workshop and I'm lifting it onto the van and then taking it off the van into the customer's home, it can be a bit flimsy sometimes. So when I use these and the biscuits, it is rock solid. Some people call it a bit, OTT, but I don't care. I use them. I really, really like them for this, and I also use them then for when I assemble like wardrobes and stuff. If you've never tried them, try them. They are fantastic. You do need a special bit. This is the Conformat bit you need. I think it's about £20, and to be honest, I do need a new one. I've had this a few years now, but I do, to make it a bit easier, because it does take out a lot of material at once, I go in first with the pilot drills, a 4mm bit, and that does make it a lot easier. But another good thing about the Conformat screw is it doesn't matter how many times you take it in and out, it will always go back in the same, and it will always pull the material tight, so they are very good. And hopefully it will show on the video how good these are, but I do really recommend them. So the two ends now, I'm just going to biscuit them together. The biscuits are just for alignment more than anything. It's just to make sure it's nice and flush on the outside. Because I work on my own, sometimes it's just nice to have that extra, help, just to make sure everything is perfectly flush. So, and it doesn't take long anyway. And I use a biscuit cutter an awful lot in what I do, so it's just like second nature to just get it out and use it. Like I said, you might have seen in my previous videos that I use a Lamello Zeta P2. That's a fantastic machine, but that's for something else. And maybe I should do a video just solely using the Lamello Zeta P2. But I'm just going to do the two sides, and then I'm going to put the centerpiece in with no biscuits, just the Conformat screws, and then that is basically the frame done. And I will put the two stretcher plates on the top, and they will just be screwed down from above, and then I can start working on the drawers. So as you can see, it doesn't take very long, and it's really strong already. It's completely flush from the outside, which is what you want. So now I got two hands to do a drill in and screw in without having to hold that board to keep it in line. So for that extra couple of minutes work, it's definitely worth it. The reason why I don't glue this together is, like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes I got to take these apart to just get them in the house. When I do them 600, 99% of the time I don't need to, but there's always that 1% chance, so I prefer not to glue it. I don't think it needs glue. It's not going anywhere. Once the legs are on and everything is built together, it definitely doesn't need glue. You could glue it if you want to, but I just don't think it's need to. So this machine here is probably one of my favourite machines, especially for the workshop. This is called the Craig Pocket Foreman. So basically what it does, it drills a hole at a very shallow angle, so then you can screw into timber to connect timber together, or in my case, MDF. So I'm just going to show you how it works. So started building the frame up now, and now I'm just going to do the stretchers to take the top of the drawers. I've just cut some 100mm strips with pocket screws, and then I can pull these in position. It doesn't need to have a full base because it's not holding anything and it's never going to be seen. So stretchers will save on material as well. So I haven't screwed this one in position yet because I want to make sure that is parallel there. So I've squared this up and squared that up, so then once this is in position, I will push that over, and then I can screw down then into position. Said position quite a few times then. I find cutting scraps of wood like this a lot better than just marking it and then just trying to hold in position. You can just pull them scrap pieces on and then it holds it perfect. It's funny, when you work on your own like I do most of the time, you've always got to come up with ways how to lift something or how to hold something on your own. So here now I've got to make a frame for the door to attach the door to. So this is going to be like my door lining. So what I've done is, you can see down the bottom, let me just turn the camera a little bit. I've got the Viking arm. This is an absolutely brilliant product, which you can lift stuff up and you can get this adapter then to give you extra height. So what I'm going to do is rest the door lining on there, so then at least the other end I can hold and screw it. So basically, that's what the pocket hole foreman does. It creates these nifty little holes at a real shallow angle. So then when I want to pull this piece now, and none of this is going to be seen because it's at the bottom, I can screw in to the side pieces, and it's a real strong fix-in. If I tried to fix it that way, just using normal screws, it would split the MDF. I could use the Conformat screws going in, but this is perfectly fine. There's no weight or anything on there, so the pocket screws is a lot quicker to use. So that's what I'm going to do here now. As you can see, there's the unit up in position, and I'm just going to add the backing triangles now. So these triangles go on every part, so 4 parts. So basically what these do, with the front triangles anyway, is they will just break everything up a bit, so it means that everything will be in line, all the draw front margins will all be in line, and also there's no sharp point, so when you open a drawer there's no pointy end, and on the door as well. So these just break it up, and it gives quite a nice look. You know, it's a kind of design of it. If you look at my other Understairs stories on Instagram, this is the kind of look I go for, and I've just copied other people basically. But yeah, so I'm putting these backers on. These are going to be 3mm forward, because it's going to be pushed to open. You need 3mm for the drawer front to go in to pop open. So if you bring these 3mm forward, then everything will be nice and flush. And again, I've just used the pocket foreman to create the holes, so I can just screw them from the front. Otherwise, you'd have to try and screw from down the top and then the sides, and it would be really tricky, and it would, you know, the MDF would split and everything. But doing it this way, there's no splitting. So now all the framework is done, it's now time to work on the drawers. So the drawer runners that I use are from a company called Ironmongery Direct in the UK. So here you go. Here's the drawer runners. They're really heavy duty, fully extendable, ball bearing hinges. I buy them in black because I just think they look better. And they're 700mm long, so the drawers are going to be 700mm. So to work out the sizes of the drawers, I could go 700 in depth, and the height of them does vary depending on the size of the understairs storage, but I'm going to make mine 350 high. That's going to leave a bit of wiggle room as well. And to work out the width for the drawers, so what you're going to do is measure the space inside to inside of your two sides, and then you've got to deduct 25mm for the drawer runners because it's 12.5mm either side, and then because the side pieces go to the front and then the back and the front go in between, you've got to deduct the thickness of the material you're using. Because I'm using 12.5mm MDF, you've got to deduct another 25mm. Hope that's right. Yeah, so basically it's just 50mm off. It's fine. So at the moment, I got a space of 463. So minus the 50mm is 413. Really easy. So 700mm deep, 350 high by 413 wide on the front and backs. I am professional, I promise you. Yeah, so I'm just gonna literally just rip all this up now on the track saw with 12mm MDF, and then I can start grooving the bottoms and then constructing the drawers. Again, I'm gonna be pocket screwing this together. It is a bit trickier with using 12mm, but I have set it up with the K5 instead of using the Foran. I got the, I think it's called the K5 anyway. It's the other Craig, pocket hole machine that I got, but again, I'll show you that in a bit. So I'm going to just do that now, and then once that's done, I can just cut all the fronts, edge band it all, and it is complete, ready for the painter. I'm at the table saw now, and I'm just going to be cutting all the fronts and backs at all the same measurement, so it's the 413 measurement. I don't probably use the table saw as much as I should, because I'm more of a fitter rather than a maker. I'm just so used to using the track saw. I have a DeWalt FlexVolt table saw that I always keep on the van, and I do it for like cutting fillers and scribes and stuff. But the table saw in the workshop is quite new to me, so I probably don't use it as much as I should. But for this kind of stuff, it is absolutely great. It's so accurate and so fast. This is the Axminster one, and I also got a big dust extractor that you will hear now, which is very loud. But I'm just going to cut all these now just to make it really quick. So that's all the drawer parts cut now, so it's all the sides and the back and fronts. I'm just going to round off all the edges now just to make them nice and smooth, and it looks a lot better before I put the groove in to take the bottom, the 6mm bottom, and then I will cut the 6mm bottom and then start assembling all the drawers. Finally, all the parts are done now for the drawers, so it's now time to put them all together. So previously I was on about how I'm going to connect them. Because this is just 12mm MDF, it is quite difficult to connect 12mm MDF. You could just screw through the sides, but you would have the screws on show, and I don't believe that is the strongest method. I have done it that method, and to be honest, I've never had any complaints, but I have been experimenting in using the Craig pocket screw system. So like I said, on 18mm it works perfect, but on 12mm it's a little bit more difficult. But I have got it to work. So instead of using the pocket Foreman, I use the K5 jig. I had this jig before I had the Foreman, and it's fantastic. Definitely recommend. It has got a 12mm setting on here, but for some reason the screw still pierces through the side of the MDF, so I have had to change it. So if you want to try this method, I would just say experiment on a few pieces to try and get it to work, and finally I have got it to work, and I do believe it is the best method to connect the 12mm MDF on show. The problem about using the pocket screw system is it does leave quite a big hole, but because mine are on the back and on the front, and then the draw front covers it, you never ever see them, so it's a perfect method for it. So I'm just going to set this up now and then drill all the holes, and then I can start assembling the drawers. So the Craig K5 is all set up now, so the only piece that I need to do is I need to do the fronts and backs, because that's what's going to connect to the sides. So here's one of the fronts and backs, and I would just randomly put the screws. It doesn't have to be super accurate, it doesn't have to be equally spaced out, honestly it's fine. So it'd probably be 3 along here and then 2 here to connect them. So just go around now doing all that, and then I can finally put them together. The drawers is always the thing that catches me out regarding time. It always catches me out. I think it's going to take a couple of hours, and then you're into half a day just making some easy, simple drawers, but that's my fault. So now it's time to put on the runners on the drawers. So these are fully extendable ball bearing runners, 700mm long. They can hold 45 kg, which I think is fantastic. I think, including the VAT, I think it works out at about 11 or 12 pound a set, which I think is really good, obviously in the UK, from Ironmonger Direct. I set them 30mm from the bottom of the actual drawer box, and then it gets set higher on the actual unit because the push to open mechanisms I use on it called Blum tip-on mechanisms. They like push to open. I pull them on the bottoms, you just need that clearance. So I'm just going to put all the runners now on the drawer boxes and then on the actual units itself, and I can get all the drawers in. It's now time to put on the second part onto the actual base. It's actually 40mm above to make sure it clears. But once I put on the push to open mechanism, you will see that. So here's the push to open mechanisms I use. These are Blum tip-on mechanisms, just like a push to open latch. So this is the base, that gets connected to the base of my Understairs storage, and then them just go inside, and then when you push the drawer, it slightly pushes in and then pops the drawer open. It pops it open just enough so you can get your hand in it to pull the drawer open in from behind. It's really good. Like I said, it makes you look really sleek and smooth while using these. You don't have to have any handles and stuff, and the customers 90% go for these rather than having an integrated handle or some sort of handle on the actual unit. So just going to pull these on now, because once the drawers are in place, you can't get access to them. That is why I've got to put these drawer runners so high, is just because you want to make sure there's enough clearance for the drawer not to hit this catch basically. And now it's time for the moment of truth to see if the drawers actually fit. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Let's find out. As you can see, they all fit perfect, really happy how they've gone on. And now it is time to do all the fronts. So it's going to be doing the 3 drawer fronts, the door, and then all the fillers to go all the way around it to make it look nice and pretty. So we get in there.
Now a word from our very first YouTube video sponsor. You know I'm a big fan of tools and gadgets, but without something to manage the admin side of work, you can't easily make the money to afford the tools. That's where Powered Now comes in. As a tradesperson, I rely on Powered Now to do all my quotes, invoicing and day-to-day business management. With Powered Now, I can focus on what I do best, my craft. No more late nights buried in paperwork and chasing payments. One of my favourite features is that it notifies you when a customer has opened the invoice. We all know how useful this could be. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, carpenter or any other type of tradesperson, Powered Now has got you covered. Say goodbye to paperwork headaches and hello to more time doing what you love. Check out the link in the description below to revolutionise your business with Powered Now. Trust me, you won't regret it.
It's now time to start cutting all the fillers, the drawer fronts and the door front. To do this, I'm using moisture resistant MDF. So this is green MDF. It's just a bit better quality. It takes paint better. The reason why I don't use it for the full project is because all the insides of like the drawers and stuff is left bare MDF to keep costs down for the customer. I think the brown MDF looks better than the green MDF. But if anything needs to be painted, then I always do try to use the moisture resistant MDF. It's incredible now. You can get some really good MDF like Medite and Finser as well. Unfortunately, I can't really get them local where I am, and like I said, where I am, I have got to think about more cost, sometimes the quality of the materials. I know that sounds a bit mad, but it's just the area I live in. And like I said, I've been using MDF for many years, and like I said, I found with painted stuff, the moisture is slightly better. And I will show you something next, what I really like to do just to make it that extra bit better. It does take a bit more time, but it does give you a bit more professional finish. Just gonna cut all the fillers now on the drawer fronts, and then I can go on to the next stage. So this is what I was on about earlier in the video, is what I do to my MDF to make it that extra bit better and a bit more professional. And that is I edge band all my MDF with this paintable edging. It's like, you know, it's a thin stuff, it's like 0.9 mil. But what's really good about it is even if you're not going to paint the job for the customer, it just leaves that bit better finish, and it's a lot easier for the customer or the painter to paint it. So the biggest problem with MDF is obviously the end grain. It's like a sponge. It doesn't matter how many times you paint it just keeps absorbing the paint. So to make it a little bit easier, I edge band it with this paintable edging. I'm very lucky that I've got 2 Edgebanders. This is my favourite one. This is the tabletop Edgebander. I've also got a handheld one, and I also use an iron, and you'll be seeing me use an iron when I'm Edgebanding all the doors, draw fronts later. But this is a fantastic machine, especially if you've got loads of long strips to do. So these are the fillers, and it is a lot easier with this machine. And as well, it does adhere better to the MDF by using this machine. I think when you're using an iron, it's got to heat the top of the tape and then obviously melt the glue onto the MDF. But because this is melting the glue first without melting the top, it does seem to stick a lot better. And it's a lot quicker. In the video, it might seem quite slow, but it's not. It's really consistent, and I probably could speed up, but I just want to make sure that the glue is properly melted before it sticks to the edge of the MDF. So I'm just going to run all this through now. I've only got three lengths to do, so it's not too bad. One is double-edged, and then I'm going to trim them off, and then I can stick the fillers on, and I can start working out the final measurements of the draw fronts and door. Now I've edge banded all the fillers, and I've used the flush cutter to just trim them so they're nice and flush with the MDF. Now I use a 3.2mm round over bit to just give that extra little detail. It makes it a lot easier to take paint, and as well, when you have a sharp edge, you know, sometimes paint will chip or flake, or even it's just a lot nicer to touch when it's rounded over. The only problem about doing this is a little bit sketchy sometimes, is because I'm using a router and I've only got 18mm to sit my router on. But as long as you're careful, and like I said, you can't really damage anything, make sure your fingers are out of the way anyway. But it gives it a really nice detail, and I do a nice close-up shot of it once it's done, because it is really smart. Hopefully you can see that it looks so much better with the edging tape on. And like I said, even if I wasn't going to paint that, I would give it like this to a customer anyway, so them to paint, but it just gives it a really nice finish. And I know then whoever does paint it, it's going to be a lot better to paint with the edging tape. I don't know if you can see both round overs. But yeah, so I'm going to do that now to all the pieces, all the fillers, and I can start attaching the fillers to work out the sizes of the draw fronts and door. So attach the fillers now to the understairs storage. You could just stick them on, but what I like to do is what I call the Derek Barrett method. So if you don't follow Derek Barrett on YouTube or Instagram, go and check him out. But he showed me this years ago, and what he does, see if I can get it in the shot, is this backing piece here is got a groove with a biscuit cutter. So that's a 4mm groove all the way along. And then to attach the front fillers, what you do is the back of the filler, I hope I'm explaining this right. So this is going to be the back of the filler, and then you just literally plunge down into the back of the filler, and then you would put the biscuits in, and then it can be attached and glued into position into the backing pieces. That sounds very confusing. I tell you what, I'll just show you how to do it. Right, that's all the edge banding done. I forgot how long it takes, to be honest, but as you can see, the results are brilliant. I'm really happy. So it's now just gonna put everything together, screw all the draw fronts on, just make sure it all lines up, and that is it. That is it done. So when putting the draw fronts on, I'm lucky that I can reach around the back to screw the draw front onto the draw box. But if you wanted to fit this unit first and connect the draw fronts, then it can be quite tricky unless you have a set of the DFA jigs. So this is a product that I make, or I get made for me. It stands for draw front alignment jig. So what you do, get the draw front, get it roughly in position, slide the DFAs on, like so. Get your packer where you need the gap to be, slide it up, both sides, and then get your margin right on the side, like so. And then you just do up the jigs. So, and then you can take the packers out, or you can leave the packers in. And as you can see, it's holding in position while you screw it from behind. Take the DFAs off. And then just to make sure that nothing is moved, put the packers back in position. Just in case the footage didn't show drilling out these holes, I come 100mm down from top and bottom and then centre of the door. And then this is the Craig hinge cutter. I absolutely love it. Just clamp it down, drill the hole, and it's perfect. This is another nifty little jig that I use. Again, this is a Blum product. It's a jig to make sure that the holes are in the correct position. So I just measured with my 5mm spacer, 100mm up, and then marked where the other hinges are. And then you just literally put that on the centre line. And then go back through with a 5mm bit. Now the last thing to do is to put on the push to open mechanisms. So these are the tip on from Blum. So they go on on the door. And then I can adjust them to suit. So that works lovely.
You've got quite a bit of adjustment on them as well. And there will be a magnetic catch as well to keep it closed. Bottom one's on. Perfect. Beautiful, and there you have it. One understairs storage. Let's have a bit of a tidy up, and then I will do a summary. And it's finally finished. I'm not gonna lie, that took way longer than what I thought it was gonna take, but because of the filming and everything, I think it's worth it. But here we have it. 3 700mm drawers on push to open catches. Nice big drawers for shoes and bags and whatever, and then a cupboard then. And like I said, this is going to be for like coats and stuff. But I'm really happy how it's turned out. I really do enjoy doing these, and it's been really nice to film it. If you have liked this video, please subscribe and like, because it just encourages me to make more videos like this. It does take a lot of time to make these videos, and I love doing them, and I'd love them even more if you guys watch them and support the channel. So thank you very much, and on to the next one.
pre-drill